What's good, y'all? And in today's video, I want to take a look at the new 7 Deadly Sins 7th anniversary Nemesis Meliodas. And I just want to kind of break down how he works, his whole kit, and how you should probably play him if he releases tomorrow. So yeah, if you enjoy the content, please leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Also, leave a comment if you have any teams you want to see with the new Nemesis Melee. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, first I'm going to show you his ultimate animation. That might have been a bit loud. Yep, so as you can see, he's really cool. Probably in my opinion, the coolest unit we've ever had in a game. So, yeah. Now, what does he even do? Like, how does he work? So he's Darkness attribute, which was kind of expected. And he's also Demon Race. So, yeah. Now, his passive. It might make sense to explain his talent as the first thing. So his talent is Blessing in Disguise. He enters Assault mode for 1 turn. The Assault mode means he gets a lot of attack related stats, 50% or 40% if you have him lower duped. 70% damage dealt. He doesn't get, he can't take reflect or counter damage, and he has immortality and stat decrease immunity. So basically he's kind of just God if you have the Assault mode buff. He also removes barrier buffs before unleashing all target attacks. So if you do an AoE, that's just gonna immediately strip Merlin Escanor's shield. And to present that, I also have, So yeah, as you can see, it removes all of the buffs when Merlin Escanor have their shield up. So it removes their shield. And I can show you that right here. Okay, so right here you can see that they're both running Merlin and Escanor. Now if you pay close attention, you're gonna see that the AoE will remove right here. The AoE will remove the shield before he attacks. So yeah, you can see right here. So a complete counter to Merlin and Escanor. Now let's get back to his actual kit, because there's a lot more to cover. Now you can use the talent 3 times, but it's not like other talents where you kind of have to wait 3 turns to use it again. You can use it every turn. So I can also demonstrate you that. As you can see, he uses the talent right here. At the start of the battle, he uses it. Now, a turn passes, and he uses the talent again. So yeah, now he only has 1 use left. Now this is gonna be kind of restricted for your dupe level, because at 1 out of 6, you will, as you can see down here, and at 2 out of 6 as well, only be able to activate the Assault mode talent twice instead of 3 times. So yeah, you definitely want to get him 3/6, because that's basically every turn you have it is a turn of immortality. So yeah, that's pretty big. Now, let's get to his general passive. He increases basic stats of applicable allies participating in battle by 15%. That's 10% at 1/6 and scales up to 15%. So yeah, let's just kind of keep track of all of this with a notepad. What he also does is, let me just also zoom in right here. Now comes this big and maybe you know, most interesting part of his passive, when all allies participating in battle are applicable allies, and the hero is not in assault mode, the hero gains Trillion Revenge at the start of the battle and at the end of the ally's turn. Now you may be confused by the wording of at the start of the battle and at the end of the ally's turn. Now remember, you can use the talent turn 1, but the moment the battle begins you don't actually have assault mode. So let's just write all of this down. Gains Trillion Revenge when not in assault mode at start of battle or end of your turn. So now what this means right here is that, you know, I mean, let's first go over the Trillion Revenge quickly. It's basically a stance. It's like full counter kind of. It makes him immune to debuff effects, to stance cancel effects, if it's applied at the start of the battle. So now I'm gonna explain it. At the start of the battle you aren't actually in assault mode. You don't start in assault mode. You just go into assault mode when you use the talent. So just when you come into the battle, it doesn't matter if you start first or second, you're gonna gain the Trillion Revenge, so the taunt, or like not even taunt, the counter. So yeah, that's just kind of what you start with, and in the first turn you can basically be in assault mode and Trillion Revenge at the same time, because you can activate the assault mode talent even though you already have Trillion Revenge at the start of the battle. But that's only if you go first. If you go second, you obviously just lose the Trillion Revenge as soon as your turn starts. So yeah, now for every time you can gain Trillion Revenge after that is just when you don't use your talent. So practically, I can show y'all an example right here. So as you can see right here, the Meliodas is ulting, but he's disabled, so he doesn't get the assault mode buff. He also doesn't use his talent, so you can see he does the 3 cards, and now he actually cleanses the debuffs on him, and as you can see, he enters the stance. So he automatically entered the stance because he didn't have the talent buff, the assault mode buff on him. So that's how you get the stance to actually be active. Now, it has its, you know, its advantages and its disadvantages, and we're gonna take a look at that right now. So the thing is that Trillion Revenge, it makes you have the counter, which deals vengeance damage. Now, vengeance damage inflicts damage equal to 70% of his initial max HP, and also 150% of the damage that any of your allies take. So if Escanor gets attacked, if anyone gets attacked, he's gonna do that damage. Now, the thing is that, you know, if at least 2 or more surviving allies are on a battlefield, so it doesn't work if he's alone, and he has the counter active, the Trillion Revenge, then you get a 40% damage cap. Now that's gonna be a 50% damage cap at 1 to 3 out of 6, and only at 4 out of 6 is it gonna jump up to a 40% damage cap, but it's still pretty good. And also it will decrease your final damage taken by another 30%, so that's pretty huge. Now the thing is, if you have that's for your whole team, now if you have the assault mode buff from his talent right here, it's gonna make yourself immortal. So assault mode, huge damage buff, makes you immortal. That's basically just really kind of watered down what he does in assault mode form, and removes shield when attacking with AoE. Now, to counter that, you have like the second form you can choose, and that's Trillion Revenge. Now, Trillion Revenge is counter and damage cap, as well as final damage taken decrease. Now, that means that you basically, in every turn after the first turn, you have two choices you can like kind of take. You can either choose to use your talent and enter assault mode, which is gonna make you immortal for that turn, but only Meliodas is it gonna make immortal, not everyone else on the team. Or you could choose to not use the talent, which is gonna make you deal a lot less damage, but what it is going to do is it's going to make you actually give all your allies a damage cap and final damage taken decrease. So one is kind of more like, let's write this down together. That means that assault mode, as the name says, aggressive damage form, which protects him. And Trillion Revenge is the kind of counter and defensive form, protecting the team. So yeah, and depending on which situation you are in, you're gonna like obviously have like, you know, one of those two, assault mode or Trillion Revenge, one of those two is gonna be better, so you're gonna have to decide between those two depending on what the situation is. Now, we can get into that later, but yeah, that's just basically the biggest thing about this kit that you need to understand. You basically every turn have the choice to enter assault mode, do huge damage during the turn, get immortality for that turn, and remove the shield from Merlin and Escanor when attacking with the AoE, or you don't use the talent, actually get the counter and damage cap, as well as final damage taken decrease for the whole team. So yeah, those are your two options. Now let's go over what he actually does after that. Now, he just gives all allies debuff immunity for one turn at the start of the battle. So pretty simple. Debuff immunity for allies turn 1. So you can't be infected by Merlin and Escanor talent, you can't be frozen by Emilia, you can't be frozen by any other unit, in fact. So that's pretty huge. Now, his next part is also kind of complicated to understand, but it's broken as hell, so I'm gonna explain it. Now, when he uses a single target attack, he can inflict Hellblaze on an enemy, but only on one enemy at the same time. So kind of like the old Assault Meliodas, the blue Assault Meliodas, had the, you know, the mark which gave him damage cap and so on. It's kind of like that, but it's more of an offensive mark, but it can only be on one enemy at the same time. So Hellblaze has the effect of increasing their damage taken. So when attacking with a single target, with his single target, more damage taken on that target, or like let me rephrase it. Target takes more damage. And now the second part from the mark is actually that it decreases the final recovery rate by 7%. Now, for every 5% of the target's diminished HP. Now, let's just mathematically just quickly go through this. That means if you're on, like, if the target is on half HP, that means that this is happening 10 times, so it decreases final recovery rate by 70%. What this means, if they have Tamir Link, it decreases the amount Tamir Link heals them by 70%. So that's pretty huge. So units with Tamir Link are gonna be, you know, healing a lot less if you have Hellblaze on them, which is kind of lore accurate because, you know, Hellblaze stops healing effects, gave Ban his scar and so on, and reduces applies Hellblaze. What's it called? Hellblaze? Yeah, Hellblaze. Which targets take, which makes target take more damage and reduces Tamir Link, or like after heals after hit. So that also applies for Ella Elaine. If you think about Ella Elaine, she's healing you like kind of the same how Tamir Link does for half the damage after doing damage, and he also applies it on that. So yeah, it's just gonna make them basically have a lot less healing, the unit you target with the Hellblaze. Now that's not all that Hellblaze does, or like that you do in if you apply Hellblaze to a target. Now if he uses a skill, like it can be the single target or the AoE on that enemy, they will only have half their damage taken suppression, so half their damage cap. Now this is huge. We can look at it, or like I'd rather say on attack, because it actually works the way that as soon as you do the single target, like even before the damage hits, you're applying the Hellblaze, so that's pretty huge. And I can show you that right here. So we can see that right here. They're having LRDN on their team. Now LRDN with her new buff actually doesn't have a 60% damage cap, but a 50% damage cap. Now pay attention to that, 50% damage cap, not 60. He can take damage from counters. Also, you probably also saw that. I'm pretty sure, I can completely confirm, but I'm pretty sure that's over 60% of his health, and Meliodas one-shots him. So he just, and you can also see right here that actually, it's hard to see, but in the exact moment he attacks, he already applies Hellblaze. You can see it's this buff right here, this debuff. He applies it the second he attacks. Or like, even better, he had the stand, so sorry, that's my bad. She doesn't even have 50% damage cap, she has a 40% damage cap, because Meliodas is in a stance, so they have a 40% damage cap. Now, if you take half of 40, she's going to be at a 60% damage cap, and that makes a lot more sense, because if we look here, he did 60% of her health. So basically, if you do the math, it's like I'm gonna write that in. So if you do the original damage cap of target times 1.5, you'll have that. So for example, Melis damage cap, 40% that he gives when he's in the counter, in the Trillion Revenge form. 40 times 1.5 equals 60%. So now his damage cap is 60%. The same goes for Light King, the same goes for Eladian, the same goes for whatever unit you can think of. Alpha damage cap, King Diane damage cap, Merlin and Escanor damage cap. So yeah, that's just OP. That makes him crazy. And again, you don't need to attack twice. You just need to attack once to apply the Hellblaze and to ignore it at the same time. So it's not like you need to do 2 single targets. Only need to do 1 single target to bypass it. Applies before the attack happens. Now that's important to understand, so you don't waste another single target. Now let's go back to what he does, because we're still not through. Now if the hero, so if he does not take damage from an enemy in any form during their turn, all enemies get the Shadow Engulfment debuff. And if the hero does not die from an enemy's ultimate move, the ultimate move gauge fills by 5 orbs. So let's show you the Shadow Engulfment. So as you can see right here, the enemy Meliodas attacks Gotha. He applies the Hellblaze immediately and one-shots him. Now, he did not attack Meli in that turn, so he gets inflicted with the Shadow Engulfment, which you can see is the little red buff right here. So now he has 50% load all stats. So let's write that down. Lowers their all stats by 50%. Now that's, I think, less if you're not 6/6. It's also a red debuff, so if they're debuff immune, it's not gonna take effect. And we can see that just a few seconds earlier. And exactly here. Now you may see that Meli... Oh yeah, wait. Yeah, right here. Now you see, they did choose to use Escanor cards. So they're just attacking Gotha and further attacking Gotha. Now, as you can see, no one has the buff right now. The debuff right now on them, the engulfment. But in this moment right here, you can see it tried to apply it to all of them, but Meli is debuff immune because he's in the counter form. Escanor is at max ult gauge, so he's also debuff immune, but Gotha isn't debuff immune, so he got inflicted with the debuff. Now that's kind of how that works. Let's get back to his information. He also gets full ult gauge, or like 3 ult gauge at 1 to 4, 6, so you only get that at 5 or 6, 6. You know, if you don't die from an ult. So I don't know if we can see that. Okay, so you can see it right here. Now Escanor actually does some damage, or you can't see it right here, my bad. Now they have damage cap, so you see it can't kill them. But Meli got his assault mode buff again because he ulted. So now, you know, Meli ults him. First and oh, he doesn't ult him because he's kind of stupid. I don't know. That would have been a better showcase, honestly. Maybe he ults him now. He doesn't. Yeah. No, we can't see it right here, but it doesn't really matter. We couldn't see that, but it's kind of self-explanatory. Basically, if you live an ultimate, let's write it down. If Meli lives an ultimate, gets 3 to 5 old orbs. So that's his passive. Now we're finally through his passive. I hope you kind of understood it. I'm gonna summarize it real quick. Or let's go over the cards first, and then I'm gonna summarize it at the end. Now his cards, what do his cards do? His cards is a single target first, inflicts Dark Destruction damage. Dark Destruction is 3 times crit chance and 3 times crit damage, so just a lot of like guaranteed crit damage. And he does 70% more damage to enemies inflicted by Hellblaze. Now remember, you apply Hellblaze on attack, so you only need to do one single target to get the effect. Anytime you do the single target, you're gonna have this effect right here. You're gonna have the damage dealt plus 70% to enemies afflicted by Hellblaze. It's never gonna be not there, so don't attack twice just because you want to have that additional damage dealt. Now his AoE inflicts Dark Assault damage equal to 390% of attack on all enemies. That's 3 times pierce rate and 3 times crit damage increase. So again, he doesn't have any crit chance increase on this card, so his crits are going to hit a lot harder than his non-crits. And he does additional damage equal to 100% of his increased attack. So that just means if you have, you know, like 70k attack in geared, let's say, and you have 20k at the start of the battle, you have 50,000 increased attack. So you're going to do an additional 50,000 damage guaranteed on every one of them. Before final damage reduction, of course. Now his ultimate, he gains assault mode again, but only at 2/6 and up. He inflicts the Shadow Engulfment, which lowers their all stats, and then inflicts Dark Assault damage. You only get that at 3/6 or higher, so his ultimate is gonna suck at 1/6. At 1/6 his ultimate is basically useless. All it does is lower their stats, and that's it. It just lowers their stats and you do a bit of damage, but bad damage because you don't have an effect on it. So yeah, at 1/6 his ultimate is trash. You really don't want to have him 1/6, you want to have him 2/6. Another reason for that is because the assault mode only increases attack related stats by 30% at 1/6 and 50% at 2/6 and up. So yeah, get him 2/6. Now, you know, that's just kind of his ultimate, and now I'm gonna completely summarize his kit as we have written down. So what does he do? He's a demon, dark attribute, Nemesis Meliodas. He has applicable allies, demons and 7 deadly sins. He gives 10 to 15% basic stats to applicable allies. All stats for himself when he has those applicable allies on the team. He gains Trillion Revenge, so the counter when he doesn't have his talent buff assault mode up after the first turn. In the first turn you can have both up at the same time because he also gets it at the start of the battle. So if you go in and you go first, you already have the stance up, so you can use the talent. You should always use the talent practically. Now, Assault Mode is basically a huge damage buff, 50% attack related stat, 70% damage dealt. It makes you immortal and you remove shields when attacking with your AoE. That's not all of it, but that's just summarized. Now, Trillion Revenge is you get the counter and damage cap as well as final damage taken decrease for the whole team. So basically Assault Mode is an aggressive form, damage form, which protects himself. He himself can't die, but you still can be stunned and similar things. But Trillion Revenge gives you the counter, but you're not like immune to dying. You can die, but it is like way more defensive because of the damage cap for your whole team. So yeah, he gives debuff immunity turn 1. And on attack with a single target, you apply the Hellblaze, which makes them take more damage, and basically any Tommy or Link-esque heal they can get after an attack is getting reduced to almost 0. It also ignores 50% of the damage cap of the unity attacks. So basically all you have to do is take the original damage cap and do it times 1.5 to know if you can kill. So if you face a Light King and he has, let's say, 50% health, and you single target with a melee, then you will do, and you hit damage cap, you will do 60% of his max health. So you will be able to kill him, when normally if they wouldn't have Hellblaze, you couldn't do more than 40% at once. Now again, you apply it on attack, so before you even do damage, the Hellblaze gets applied. So don't just, you know, attack once and think it applies after you attacked. It applies before you attack. So yeah. Then again, if he takes no damage, you, during their turn, you lower all their all stats by 50%, but it's red, so it can be that they aren't afflicted by it if they're debuff immune. And if he lives an ultimate, he gets basically instantly his ult. So yeah, his cards are just a lot of damage, pierce, crit damage, and additional damage. Again, for a single target, you because you apply Hellblaze on attack, you will always have the 70% extra damage. And that's pretty much it. He's pretty duper aligned, as I said. You want to get him at least 2-6. In best case scenario, you want to get him 3-6 for the additional Assault Mode activation count, as well as the inflict Dark Assault damage on the ult. So yeah, definitely go for him. Now that's all I have to say for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. It would really help me out. I'm gonna, you know, upload more 7 Deadly Sins content in the future, and if you want to see that, please subscribe. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna see you in the next video, and until then.